akraba je bi ene de ba na no Trinidad and Tobago eho na ye ko ye be hwa yonko fa ewo Asante ni Trinidad and Tobago ntem enti wo hene ko ho ye soso ho ne yura ba ye do so ni yie abeto miwura opani wo se kwadwo eba no abakosem edia mekase mifem mekase si ye twira bakosem oni seso enti na memfa ni agro kra miwura memwajia
ya eja
akra na ho te sei
eyi
de jasi wada wo ma kura mi nhunu boyi Trinidad and Tobago engufa be ne wo mo ni Asante ntem wada wo ma
di kai
o tumo ko sa ho ayo
ye nkrofo no bi ewo ho
Asante fo no bi wo ho
ai wa ho se tete ho no a enkwa ade enkwa to baaye no ade bai bebere sisi ye wo ye nkrofo a ebi kura ye ton won na ye ni ye nim se ye ton won akọ na won makọ akọbre na emom senia na asantefo ye nkrofo a ye towo no no am Jesus a na ye won ye de na asantefo de ye bi ne se sebe se wase ehia wutimi ekọware free manfreni na se no abedo ama so hu bobe ma nkọware a ne ma no no wa bagum na wa de wa ye afi nso se wo wunni nipa na tete ho no me na ba akọ se ne ye frɛ na amafi no oto nipa de ya ne se wo hu se me maame enko a na busua no waka enti se wo ba be bobosia wo peska no abobosia e bia po mienu wo bobosia po mienu a wo anyi si ho na emom wo baba na wo de na ba na fa brem na eda obenye ska no na wo de aba na wa baje wo ba na eduru bre bi kura na se wo baba no e bia na ni supenti na ye de no kura sa ma e bia efie wura no na ne ba no aware no eno ne asa ba ba ye no ho ade ama so enti sa na asantefo ye se be ye betimi enye nipa enti enkwasom ba ye no ye tonko ano asantefo de ye adwe ne se obi kọ obi ma so akwa kosua eho amamro ni bribia enti ebi kọ na enti eduru se achire ye hu se enkwasom eto atwa no ne yetin se ma ye no ya na eno ya nipa ye kọ ye no eda so ewo ho a wonum kai se yefiri ha ye ka se ebe se 1703 ana bibisa adi agunafo ani dwabenfo kon no eno na ma abrakaso boye abrakaso e boye no enipa ni bebre wo ho a ye kikire won ekoton won nti na anum ho kura na mewo adie no meye education na me kire history wo baabi no won mu ka me krata no won mu ba be si me so ma me de won kwa abraka so
ko heho
nti sa na ti asantefo no bebre amamie no ko ana o ya kikire nipa ne ya yo
na de be kan wo de wo nya dom se sa na ye konjire bia ne hia dom na odawro ma ne ye mokuru so nkomo kakrai e ho no yukrubo ho a se ukwa ayi English rebuchi memu a ohima na kuru wo no enti ukọ Trinidad ho a e ho nso omu mampani ana so mo wo hina na ohima wo ho a nimu oduru bisa ho
so hu se Brazil enchemu ho na sa ade South America side ho num na wonum nyina ye wo So ahu.
On ben Brazil ho. Any boy you from Bokotoko na kotoko gu ye ni masi. You go chichi bi ho. Na o mo Bokotoko mai.
Enti won mo ben ehɔ no mo no. No de enti ye bɛkɔ a ebia na won mo hene eduru bebe so ana president na mmom ye hu sɛ won mo nkyiri efiri adeɛ no. Fi sɛ nkoa yɛ tɔn wɔn de kɔɛ no saa mbiamia no mo ɛne yɛde wɔn kɔɛ. Enti Jamaica no nyinaa no otumfuo betimi akɔ hɔ bi sɛ Jamaica fo no bebree yɛ asantefo.
Mr. Bisa Bible brasu gu nkwato edwa yi.
Aba ajade ɛne abrochire bɛsɛ 1840 hɔ no ɛna yɛfiti ase egu nkoa ha. Na yɛn deɛ na asantefo deɛ na yɛtɔ.
Yɛtɔ fraye deɛ. Yɛtɔ fa. Muni ntonton. Wada ma Trinidad ho wo mu tumi di fufuo si di ne ha yi. Wo mu a me kan nyina sɛ
asantefo a wo hɔ deɛ wɔn bedi fufuo. Efi sɛ baabi a wobɛkɔ no sɛ ɛyɛ wɔn mu ekoduadua adeɛ ta nom ne ho nneɛma na wo yɛ efuo nso a wobɛtumi adua saa nneɛma bi ayɛ ha.
Nyansapo de ɔde ana ade asɛm. Yɛte ade bia na esi ebisɛm nneɛma nso hu de akoduro. Na nso amayemo ne adwuma kyɛ sɛ ye chitre ani na yɛse samampa ne tunu badin yɛnti na nkrofo fa nyasapo no bi de na nso nyasapo no de akora bi metie adwamu a yesu amamra ne amane ye ka omu anim de hɔ na omu aka me aka bi akyerɛ mu ani enye maame ne se papa ne se bia de nyasapo no ne de akora ba tie adwamu a ye kye amamra ne amane ya busan wada roma ene yenkɔe ne yenhwɛ bra wɔ hene kɔɔye ne ɛkɔɔ so na yɛmfie ne nkɔba kɔnhoma ho bi mra ye ba ye beto aso.
It is my honor and privilege to say welcome to our distinguished guest, His Royal Majesty, the Asante of the Ashanti Kingdom. We here in Trinidad and Tobago, Africans we are, of African descent, we cannot deny. We have always been missing something. And today is the highlight of a mental, spiritual, and physical journey to date. I was raised in Tobago by my grandparents, and I had a grandfather who worked every day, except Sunday, when he became a Seventh-day Adventist. But there was one day in the year that he never worked. It was the only day he would get up from bed and say, today I will not do work. I will celebrate August Day. As a child, I thought he was just taking a day off. But as I got to learn more and more of our history, I realized that this old man who was raising me was honoring ancestors we never knew, who were hidden from us, and an ancestry which was very much buried. 1st of August was the day he recognized as his own personal holiday. He passed away in 1974. Never saw the next step that we made, where later on, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, led by a party, led by a historian, decided on encouragement to declare this day, the 1st of August, Emancipation Day. Ladies and gentlemen, let us celebrate, let us acknowledge, and let us go forward. But under the hands of that historian, Dr. Eric Williams, it appears as though we were always reaching out for Africa, it being far away, but he knew it was there. In the 60s, we had royalty from Africa. The Emperor Haile Selassie visited us, and we got to know that Africa did have an emperor, did have an empire. The Italians didn't want to accept that. The world didn't want to accept it, but Africa knew it. Then came prime ministers, presidents. We had the visit of Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlins. He visited us at Emancipation time. And Goodluck Jonathan, he also visited. But this is the first time that we are having a visit of a blood relative, royal blood relative from West Africa, which has a connection to us here in Trinidad and Tobago. So visitors and visitors all, this visit is different because it's a welcome home to us and a welcome to us to Africa from family. This is a family gathering taking place at Emancipation time in Trinidad and Tobago.
So, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. So, beloved sons and daughters of Trinidad and Tobago. So, we bring you loyal greetings from your brethren across the ocean in the Asante Kingdom, within the Republic of Ghana. The chiefs and people of Asante, one of the surviving kingdoms of Africa, wish you joy on this momentous day and prosperity in all the years to come. So, let me express our sincere thanks to the Prime Minister for his gracious invitation to be your guest of honor at this year's Emancipation Day. So, it has enabled us to embark on a journey, indeed a pilgrimage, of the most profound significance as the heirs of a proud kingdom stretching several centuries back on a continent scarred by the demons of history. So, we come with a heart heavy with the pain and anguish of a history smeared in the blood and tears of our tortured sons and daughters, extracted from their homes into slavery to be bestialized and brutalized in foreign lands. So, and yet, this heart is also pumped up with pride in the valor, resilience, and indomitable spirit of the African soul. So, we come with a heart of sorrow for wars that can never be measured, but also filled with faith, abiding faith in the ultimate triumph of the African soul and the power of reconciliation and renewal. So, embedded in our culture is an obligation to honor our dead, to draw inspiration from their lives and to celebrate our heroes. Trinidad and Tobago deserves all the honor as the first nation to commemorate Emancipation Day as a national holiday. And particularly for giving it the international dimension it has assumed. Our presence here affords us the opportunity to perform a historic duty, to pay homage to the 20 million sons and daughters of Africa who were the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Without doubt, the most cruel enterprise in human history. To salute the valiant heroes and martyrs who through 2 harrowing centuries mounted courageous resistance against the enslavement to try and break free from the chains of bondage. We salute the brave men and women of all races and persuasions who stepped forth to lead the anti-slavery movement, whose trenchant struggles paved the way to the historic emancipation of August 1st, 1834. And yes, we also salute the heroes in the post-emancipation epoch. Marcus Garvey, Dr. W.B. Du Bois, Dr. Martin Luther King, the radical Trinidadian intellect George Padmore, C.L.R. James, whose intellectual and philosophical ideas fanned the flames of Pan-Africanism and inspired leaders like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, and Nelson Mandela to pursue the political emancipation of the continent of Africa from the yoke of colonialism. The Emancipation Act, passed by the British government granting the slaves freedom from bondage, entered into force on August 1st, 1834. It set the momentum for the European countries and the United States, but decades of intense struggle lay ahead before the consolidation of the process. But while the slaves from Africa were at least nominally free from bondage in the lands of former toil, the continent were at least from which they were extracted remained under colonial subjugation. It was not until 130 years after the emancipation of African slaves that both the mother continent of Africa and the countries of the Caribbean, where they were now domiciled, could gain independence from the colonial masters, beginning with Ghana in 1957, and even then from the continent as well as the diaspora, we continue to ponder what emancipation. What emancipation when every government in Africa is still struggling against severe odds to lift their people from grinding poverty? What emancipation when we're still obliged to look up to our former colonial masters for support and survival? And what emancipation when the descendants of the emancipated slaves still cannot walk the streets of the greatest nations on earth, free from fear for their lives? What emancipation for George Floyd, Steve Lawrence, Fafona, and the endless line of our descendants who have fallen to the feet of racial bigotry across Europe and the United States? And what emancipation when even our sportsmen cannot perform without confronting the taunts and hate of mobs because of who they are? We have come to share with you the joy and mirth of the moment, to showcase the enthralling culture that defines us and to bear testimony to the fact that beyond the walls of history and the oceans that seek to separate us, we remain and ever will be one people with one common destiny. So, it is in that spirit that we also recognize the need to go beyond the mirth of the moment to try to understand the essence of emancipation and the challenges it poses to every descent in the diaspora. So, giving people the freedom to wallow in poverty cannot be true emancipation, nor can it be when the emancipated souls are thrust onto an environment hostile with racial discrimination and injustice. So, the tribulations facing our governments in Africa, Caribbean, and Latin America, as they struggle to lift our people from grinding poverty and the racial discrimination our people continue to endure worldwide, not only determine our emancipation, but now pose a mortal danger to our humanity. So, I believe, therefore, that over 180 years after the Emancipation Act, it is time for a universal effort to give meaning to emancipation, and I invite our leaders to pursue the proclamation of a new universal declaration against racial discrimination, which will have, among its elements, the elevation of racial discrimination into a crime against humanity. Secondly, I invite our governments to pay attention to the education of our youth about our common heritage, the history of our glorious past through the millennia of great empires that ruled in the world long before the onset of European civilization, and the intrinsic values that have shaped us as a people and have survived through all the storms of the past. So, we need this to debunk the obnoxious narratives that have infected us with a deficiency complex over the years and reconnect us with the wisdom and true hardy substance from which our forefathers sprang. So, beloved Trinidadians, beloved gems of African heritage, destined by circumstance to glow in the soil of the Caribbean Isles, I ask with deep solemnity for a period of introspection, for each one of us to ask himself or herself, what am I doing? What am I doing for my country, for my community, my family, and myself? No nation is built by magic or by stealth. Nations are built by the sweat and labor of the people. 2 centuries ago, your forefathers were cruelly extracted from their homes and brutally compelled to exert their labor to serve and create wealth for others. Today you have the opportunity to freely build a nation of your own, to create wealth for yourselves, and to live the happy lives your forefathers were denied. What, I ask, could be more glorious than this? I'm not unmindful of the complexities of the African condition reflected in stark terms by the psychological damage and attendant moral afflictions from which generations of Africans are still smarting. The resultant imbalance has led to attitudes that should be understandable from the perspective of a psychologist, but we should not simply surrender to its ills. We should accept it is a historic challenge to strive to eliminate the scars of the past and boldly create new conditions for the wealth and well-being of our families and our nations. That is why I wish to address the need for re-education as a key to redemption and call on scholars, writers, and indeed to the educational establishment of African heritage to launch a united effort for the preparation of the material for use at all levels to tell the true African story to this and coming generations. This does not mean We have to wait until we have cleared all the debris of the past before our future can be secure. We have a problem today that we dare not ignore. The new transatlantic debt trade has erupted in a continent of Africa, involving the grotesque, heartbreaking spectacle of our most able-bodied young people, paying people to lead them to their death. Men and women, many of them of higher education, are making perilous journeys in search of greener pastures in the lands where our forefathers were forced into slavery. Here in Trinidad and in other sister islands of the Caribbean, we have the unfortunate upset of needless violence, often fueled by drugs. I cannot pretend to know all the reason or to have answer, but I'm sure it reflects a degree of despair that has the potential to set our nations further back. And I also know one thing: giving in to despair does not reflect the African. As king of a mighty warrior kingdom, I can assure you that the African spirit does not cower under adversity. If it were not so, we would have been wiped out of the face of the earth as a race long before our time. Africa has been proven to be the cradle of the human race. It was from the shores and forests of Africa that humans first drifted to lands now known as Asia, Europe, and Americas. That being the fact, can we not say with pride that our great-great-great-grandmother, mine as well as yours, is truly the mother and the midwife of the human race? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. So why should we allow others to steal our pride, ossify our true heritage, and leave us in despair? The true African spirit is to stand up and yell, "Ne desperandum." We should, beloved Trinidadians, we must resist the temptation to be defined by drugs and needless violence, by slothfulness and wanton indiscipline. The Asante kingdom has survived through 4 centuries because of the fidelity of the people to the golden stool and their king. Their discipline and hard work, these are the qualities we cherish from our stock. Fortunately, we do not even have to look far into history for inspiration. There are enough heroes and heroines in the pantheon of greatness to inspire every child in Trinidad to dream and go for it. We must resolve to be defined by the sporting prowess of Muhammad Ali, Nascimento Pele, Brian Lara, Kobe Bryant, Usain Bolt, Serena Williams, and Wilma Rudolph. We must be defined by the music of such immortals as Louis Armstrong, Bob Marley, Nat King Cole, Aretha Franklin, Mariam Makeba. And yet, we must be defined by the heights by which great men reached and kept. Great men of our kith and kin like Barack Obama, General Colin Powell, Busumru Kofi Annan, and Ngozi Okonjo. Some of the greatest leaders of the modern world, whose record of leadership in the highest global level stand tall against any measure. And I dare add, there is enough quality closer home to counter any negativity, to dispel any despair. George Padmore was among the first to critically analyze how colonialism was despoiling Africa, extracting its wealth to enrich the colonial master. His book, Africa, Britain's Third Empire, was promptly banned by the colonial government, but Padmore's vigorous advocacy of the Pan-African ideal was what sharpened African students in London, like Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, and Joe Appiah, immersed them in the Pan-African vision which prepared them to return to lead the revolution for the emancipation of Africa from colonialism. Padmore joined his friend Nkrumah on the achievement of independence in Ghana and ran Nkrumah's African Affairs Secretariat, which was responsible for supporting liberation movements across Africa. He died a citizen of Ghana and stands as a symbol of Ghana-Trinidad oneness. Your first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, was another close friend of Nkrumah whose insight in economic affairs remains undiminished, and I recall another distinguished Trinidadian son, Philip Cross, who served as senior legal counsel. It is patently clear that Ghana and Trinidad and Tobago share one destiny, a common destiny fortified by the blood of our sons and daughters and driven by the high vision of our leaders. We have no choice but to join hands together, work together, think together, plan together, pool all our resources together to lift our countries out of the distress of the moment into the prosperity of that is their destiny. As we herald the heroes from whose exploits on the global stage we draw inspiration, we see worrying gaps on the pantheon. Where are the mighty titans of business who are shaping the global today? Where are we in the laboratories from which scientific discoveries are shaping mankind? Where are we in the digital world? The fortunes of nations and individuals are being transformed daily by new technology, and the prospects of artificial intelligence taking control of the global economy looms large. But where are we in the race? You have heard over again about the scourge of climate change. I am sure you have not just heard, but have experienced the devastating effect. In Ghana, the forest from which the Asante kingdom drew its strength and wealth is depleted. The combined effects of insufferable droughts and raging floods threaten the very existence of mankind, and we are the main victims. We can either face the challenge or surrender to its consequences. There can be no question that to face the challenge with fortitude is a task for every citizen. Our businessmen need to step forward to explore the myriad of opportunities in the new economy, the green economy, to create wealth for themselves, create jobs for the people, and together create wealth for the nation. In the face of these challenges and consequential opportunities, there should be no reason for despair, and most certainly no reason for any recourse to wanton acts of violence, indiscipline, or inter-ethnic strife. We all belong together. 3 years ago, I had the honor of hosting the Prime Minister in my palace in Kumasi when he visited Ghana as the guest of honor at the celebration of Ghana's Independence Day. We had the opportunity for very fruitful discussions and to share ideas on wide-ranging issues. We have followed the affairs of your sister state closely since then. From all our observations, there's no reason for us to doubt that, every reason to be confident that beloved Trinidad and Tobago is in safe hands and pointing in the right trajectory. We see every prospect of building a prosperous state which can be a model of inclusivity and the racial harmony the world so desperately needed today. But as the people need good leaders, so good leaders need loyal people to help deliver success. So in the spirit of your great ancestors, whose heritage has been bequeathed to us, I ask you, beloved sons and daughters of Trinidad and Tobago, valiant sons and daughters of the heroes whose residence broke down the chains of slavery, let us rise above and abolish notions of despair, cast into the fire temptations to meaningless violence and any habit calculated to undermine the peace and stability of the state. Remember, this is home, your home. It is yours to build and yours to save. Home is where the honor is, and honor only grows in the soil of peace. As I return to my peaceful abode in Kumasi, Ghana, I hope one day in the future I can hear someone say, we heard a voice from the Asante forest, we listened and we found peace. And with peace came accelerated development and prosperity. God bless Trinidad and Tobago. God bless the brotherhood of Trinidad and Tobago and Ghana. May we together find everlasting prosperity for this and generations to come. Thank you and enjoy glorious Emancipation Day. Thank
you. Yehu de course wo ho. Na no adawroma menim se eba na twro ne abakosem a medical edibia hia manfo twrobo no se me family mahunu se udi mu kan pa. Na Trinidad ho yeko yehu se ohene ni chiri ye anum no. We wuro bia chiri ye no eda so esini so.
Unim se ye mam hase no. Obi se abibire mamu no. Asante agitini.
Okay.
Na asante hene so na ahwenso de baako ene chiniye ade. Nti baabi a wobekro no. Se chiniye se ensu oto awie abo so okọ se chiniye se ne so. Nti se wokoka amenguma ade Asante History Part 2 Volume 2 a chiniye chinfo se ma twero ne ho asem nyina ewom. Na ebre bi kura Asante hene ekọ aburuchire no wokoye no wonu eda mu a na chiniye chinfo enso eda ne etozo mienu mu nti oyade enti na hyenso de kane no se bribia no wonfa wiem wonfa nsuo mu ni nyina age se wukura chiniye chinfo a wonu wodi sinu
Yo, na no adawroma memisia se Trinidad ho no. Ile ni bubu a wadawroma mpanimfo se be kura odum so onyansa ntima hunu ho. Yohwe an kese no ebeduru Ghana ha.
Aha, kokadi die me mente se chen Ghana. So ho. Na mom die ya ne se eyo man kese kakra. Na sabre no ehonum so na wenum kwaduadua tobacco ne sugar na asiti ade ahwedie ene ade ya no on mata no on me ho adwuma no so nyina eyenko asomu ne de ko na de ba ya ne se wonum hu se abibifo no ye wiri etimi sa nyarewa no enu na ma wonum ebesisa yenko ho bebere no aha de ko ye
Yewe de nyame mamu yedu pampe enti tonto maka broni obeyade ne ye kai ye ntehwe enu diko na yade saa yade ya ekum nipa dudu ye ha bae enti mi enku ye pi enu kre nyame ahire bibi man enti mi yanko bi nyame ye bibi ni akura ne be ya adwen
enti mi ntimi nkasa ebi se nyame de so ono obo honam nyina
Ote bi fonkwa wonti ase tini ma nyame de ma ye do so no
edo so no kire se wo de ehia wo ne de ma wo
ukokuru bi so a di kro de bo mo brai ba ko pe bi kura fa ngonko a enso wo mo ho nkire wo de adwuma nya wo mo hato wo no obi okura woni hwe eto no ogigi jinsa wato e no de bunu man yeso de japade aduma nko wo bia o ma ye bi
se de ma wa eno so na so ma wo ya kwadworo efise wo nwene bi ade bia wo hoto
we say we wo say we wo
na se wo ho nto wo a na wo dwene biribie so ahu se meye sei de wo kwa kane se wo ko obi afuo mu a bo fra wo ti di kwa so ahu anka atete agu ase ya de enim se adua na so betime fa afei ya mam ha se na ye kwa besen se tetode ya ne wo ntime nkote na moma tetode ya eno wo ko ya de di ya ade efo na mo se ade efuo bebre so ya na nje
ade efuo bo se be penise bo kwase aka wo de ayi me de asemsi de bi twam akora bi se nyame bo wi ase na oduro bi memu titiru Ghana ha de yapade nyina bi ma yen na wo ka nyame ho se na ade na ha nko ade oduro wagya ne mapia gu fom mo sa wote hwe kro mo sa ko mo ani bi ho ko bobosia yo akra nam ne twetwe nkomo yi ye gbo twetwe mu se ye ko Trinidad ho na ohene wo de ate wasem kakra me se ombedura ye beti hu sempi ho foni bi ne da kire wo de ye koso ho nyina na ho se sande hene sebe bebi okọ bia wi asafa na nyina atene nkan bebi odu bia no ye gina wa atu ni nyina ka dimpa ye kan ho asem enti mada roma mu menye dimpa se de yewura o se kodwo watworo nwoma na ogya dimpa enwoma mi nim so no kra wo nyemu ade kire bo ya adom a ne ma ne nananom ne bedi di ho pa de su jajapade bi sa ato ho na wona no abodi ahira wo akra wada roma ye mfa Trinidad de no ensi ha na empensu mu ye minimu na ye mehwe esa ye kono wo German ye beba we German sa no pensu bi gu minimu na entwa homa adenti ne ebube ne brebe nse si ebube ebe ye de den kura preko enim sebe odwampopo bi esi kro nimu a wase wadoro sra
Tanyini wantena fie ema aseduamfo
blani pie frimantam bahin se pin enye nkwande wa na yesotro no wa
ansa na odi asebe fita na no makode ebrensi am wa wotua ne nsem mojabumonim hu bi
duanani wie klaman wo ye sofo kra wo nye bi
tontonte ye no nsane ye fa
nyansapo
aboa ntakra na mane yekese na ntakra aboa ne de fanyinam kwatere kwa
wada roma ntuma ye fe ni din de sey
ni din de Obama
akola wa no so pese otrimu osuma ense bratam
the problem ne honhon hia na America sa
sebe ka ya twere ni mu nyame nai ebu afaso enye de ya twere ni mu twa nyame
sebedi akone be kwen bodi atwede na se kofi no ne ya aben ntima nyina ni mu ampata na wo yade ya